Karen screams at Muslim woman in a mall, then learns she's the new owner. How will the new owner respond? To find out, watch the video to the end. But first, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to get more stories like this. In the bustling heart of the city, the newly renovated Goldstone Mall gleamed under the sunlight. It was a place where people of all backgrounds came to shop, eat, and enjoy their time. However, on this particular day, the energy in the air was different. As families strolled through the mall and friends chatted over coffee, an unsettling tension brewed near the central atrium. Amira, a poised and confident woman dressed in a flowing abaya and a neatly wrapped hijab, was reviewing her notes on her tablet. She was an expert in her field, known for her intelligence and dedication to building inclusive spaces. Today, she was conducting a walkthrough of the mall to ensure everything was ready for the grand reopening celebration happening later that month. As she moved through the space, her calm demeanor and soft smile masked the weight she carried as a trailblazer in a world not always kind to women like her. Amira had faced her fair share of challenges: discrimination, dismissiveness, and outright hostility. But she had learned to rise above it all, focusing on her mission and the people who looked up to her. Nearby, a woman in her mid-50s named Karen browsed through racks of clothing, her sharp gaze darting around the store. Known for her short temper and sharp tongue, Karen was no stranger to making her opinions heard. Spotting Amira through the glass doors of the store, Karen's expression shifted into a scowl. "Unbelievable," Karen muttered under her breath. "They let anyone in here these days?" Amira continued walking, unaware of the storm brewing behind her. She paused near a potted plant to check a design layout on her tablet. Karen exited the store and approached her, her footsteps loud and deliberate. "Hey you." Karen's voice cut through the hum of the mall. Several heads turned, curious about the commotion. Amira looked up, startled by the outburst. "Yes." Amira replied calmly, her brow furrowing slightly. Karen pointed an accusatory finger at Amira. "What are you doing here? This is a respectable place, not some marketplace for your kind." Amira blinked, stunned by the blatant hostility. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," Karen snapped, her voice growing louder. "You don't belong here, walking around like you own the place." Several onlookers gathered, their faces reflecting a mixture of shock and discomfort. Some pulled out their phones, recording the interaction. Amira felt her cheeks flush, but she took a deep breath, reminding herself to remain composed. "I don't understand why you're speaking to me this way," Amira said evenly. "I'm here on official business." Karen crossed her arms, her face twisted with disdain. "Official business? Yeah, right. Would hire someone like you. You're probably here to stir up trouble. People like you always do." The crowd murmured in disbelief, some shaking their heads at Karen's behavior. A man in a security uniform stepped forward, his brow furrowed. "Ma'am, is there a problem here?" he asked, addressing Karen. Karen turned to him, her voice dripping with indignation. "Yes, there's a problem. This woman is loitering and making people uncomfortable. She shouldn't even be here." The security guard glanced at Amira, who stood tall despite the humiliation. "Miss, do you have a reason to be here?" Amira nodded, her voice steady. "Yes, I'm here on behalf of the management team. I'm overseeing preparations for the grand reopening." Karen scoffed. "Management team? Don't make me laugh. Do you expect us to believe that?" Before Amira could respond, a voice rang out from the crowd. "Leave her alone." A young woman stepped forward, her phone raised. "I've been recording this whole thing. You're out of line, lady." Karen's face flushed red. "Mind your own business." The security guard raised his hand. "All right, let's all calm down." "Miss," he said, addressing Amira, "do you have any identification or documentation?" Amira nodded and reached into her bag, pulling out a badge that bore her name and title. Amira Al-Mansour, Chief Executive Officer. The crowd gasped. Karen's eyes widened as she read the badge. "CEO," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Amira met Karen's gaze, her calm demeanor unwavering. "Yes, I'm the CEO of Goldstone Properties, which owns this mall. I was conducting an inspection before you interrupted me." The atmosphere shifted dramatically. The murmurs in the crowd grew louder, and Karen's expression morphed from anger to panic. The security guard looked apologetic, stepping back to give Amira space. I didn't know," Karen stammered, her bravado crumbling. "I mean, you don't look." "Don't finish that sentence," Amira interrupted, her tone firm but measured. "Your assumptions and behavior are unacceptable." The young woman with the phone stepped closer. "You owe her an apology." Karen hesitated, glancing at the crowd, which now included several mall employees. Feeling the weight of their judgment, she mumbled, "I'm sorry." Amira nodded, though her expression remained guarded. "I appreciate your apology. I hope this experience teaches you to treat others with respect, regardless of your assumptions." Karen opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. She turned and hurried away, her head lowered. The crowd began to disperse, though the incident remained the topic of conversation. Amira sighed and looked at the security guard. "Thank you for stepping in. I'll take it from here." He nodded, visibly embarrassed. "I'm sorry about that, ma'am. Let me know if there's anything I can do." Amira gave him a small smile before continuing her walkthrough. Though she maintained her composure, her heart ached from the encounter. No matter how much progress the world seemed to make, moments like this reminded her of the work that still needed to be done. As she resumed her inspection, a young girl approached her, holding her mother's hand. "Are you really the boss of this place?" the girl asked, her eyes wide with admiration. Amira crouched down to the girl's level, her smile genuine. "Yes, I am. And you know what? You can be anything you want to be too." The girl beamed, and her mother nodded in appreciation. "Thank you for being a role model," the mother said softly. "We need more people like you." Amira's heart swelled with gratitude. Moments like these reminded her why she fought so hard to break barriers and create inclusive spaces. Though the path was often difficult, it was worth it to inspire the next generation. As the day wore on, the tension from the earlier encounter began to dissipate, though the incident had already spread like wildfire. Several people had uploaded clips of Karen's outburst on social media, and the video quickly gained traction. It wasn't long before comments began pouring in, condemning Karen's behavior and praising Amira for her grace under pressure. Amira, meanwhile, continued her walkthrough of the mall, focusing on the tasks at hand. She met with contractors, reviewed the placement of new signage, and even stopped to chat with a few shop owners. Her presence brought a sense of reassurance and unity to the space, and it was clear that the mall's transformation was a reflection of her vision. Despite her busy schedule, Amira couldn't shake the memory of Karen's words. They echoed in her mind, a harsh reminder of the prejudice she had faced throughout her life. But rather than dwell on the negativity, Amira chose to channel her emotions into her work. She knew that the best way to combat ignorance was through action. Across town, Karen sat in her modest suburban home, scrolling through her phone with a growing sense of dread. The video of her confrontation with Amira had gone viral, and the comments were relentless. "This is disgusting behavior. Shame on her. She had no idea who she was messing with." Amira handled that like a queen. Karen's face burned with embarrassment as she read the responses. She had always been outspoken, but this time she had gone too far. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. She had judged someone based on their appearance and made a fool of herself in front of the entire mall, and now the world. Her husband, Tom, walked into the living room, his expression a mix of concern and frustration. "Karen, have you seen this?" he asked, holding up his phone. Karen sighed, rubbing her temples. "Yes, Tom. I've seen it." "What were you thinking?" he demanded. "Do you have any idea how bad this looks? People are calling you a racist." "I didn't mean it like that," Karen mumbled, though even she didn't believe her own excuse. Tom shook his head. "You need to make this right. Apologize publicly or something. This isn't going to blow over on its own." Karen groaned, but deep down she knew he was right. She had to do something to salvage what was left of her reputation. The following morning, Amira arrived at the mall early, her mind already buzzing with ideas for the day. She had a meeting scheduled with the marketing team to finalize plans for the grand reopening, but before she could head to the office, her assistant approached her. "Amira, you're not going to believe this," the assistant said, holding up a tablet. "Look at this." Amira took the tablet and watched the video that had been circulating online. She saw herself standing tall in the face of Karen's hostility, her voice calm and composed. The video had amassed thousands of likes, shares, and comments, with people praising her professionalism and courage. Amira smiled wryly. "Well, I guess word travels fast." "That's not all," her assistant continued. "Karen's been trying to reach out. She wants to apologize." Amira raised an eyebrow. "Really? That's unexpected." "She sent an email this morning," the assistant said, handing Amira a printout. "She's asking for a meeting." Amira read the email carefully, her expression thoughtful. While part of her was tempted to ignore the request, she knew that forgiveness and understanding were just as important as accountability. After a moment of consideration, she nodded. "Let's set it up," she said. "But on my terms?" Later that week, Karen nervously entered the mall, clutching her purse tightly. She had agreed to meet Amira in a private conference room near the management office. Her heart pounded as she made her way through the bustling corridors, her eyes darting around as if everyone knew who she was. When she arrived at the designated room, a receptionist greeted her and led her inside. Amira was already seated at the head of the table, her presence commanding yet approachable. She stood to greet Karen, extending a hand. "Thank you for coming," Amira said, her tone neutral. Karen hesitated before shaking her hand. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." They both sat down, and for a moment, the room was filled with an awkward silence. Karen cleared her throat, her voice shaky as she began to speak. "I want to start by saying how sorry I am for the way I treated you," she said. "I was completely out of line. There's no excuse for my behavior." Amira listened intently, her expression unreadable. "What made you decide to reach out?" Karen looked down at her hands, fidgeting with her wedding ring. "When I saw the video, I realized how horrible I looked. But more than that, I realized how wrong I was. I judged you without knowing anything about you, and I regret it deeply." Amira nodded slowly. "I appreciate your apology, Karen. But this isn't just about me. Your words and actions reflected a mindset that hurts a lot of people. What are you going to do to change that?" Karen's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know. I want to be better, but I don't know where to start." Amira leaned forward, her voice gentle but firm. "Start by educating yourself. Listen to the stories of people who are different from you. Challenge your assumptions. And most importantly, treat everyone with respect, no matter who they are." Karen nodded, wiping her eyes. "I will. I promise." Karen left the meeting feeling both humbled and determined. She had come face to face with the consequences of her actions, and Amira's words had left a lasting impression. For the first time, Karen realized the depth of her ignorance and how much she had to unlearn. Meanwhile, Amira continued her work at the mall, focusing on the grand reopening event scheduled for the following week. The excitement was palpable as shop owners prepared their stores, and the marketing team finalized details for the big day. Amira's leadership was evident in every aspect of the event, from the inclusive advertising campaigns to the diverse lineup of performers and vendors. As the reopening day approached, the viral video of Karen's outburst continued to generate attention online. Media outlets picked up the story, framing it as a tale of resilience and redemption. Amira received numerous messages of support from people around the world, many of whom shared their own experiences with discrimination. Amira's phone buzzed with a call from her best friend, Layla, who had been following the story closely. "Amira, I just saw another article about you. They're calling you the Queen of Grace." Amira chuckled. "I'm not sure about that title, but it's nice to see people focusing on the positives." "You deserve it," Layla said. "You turned a horrible situation into an opportunity to educate and inspire. That's no small feat." Amira smiled, grateful for her friend's unwavering support. "Thanks, Layla. It hasn't been easy, but if it helps even one person, it's worth it." On the day of the grand reopening, the mall was buzzing with activity. Banners and balloons adorned the entrances, and a red carpet stretched across the main atrium. Shoppers filled the corridors, their excitement contagious as they explored the newly renovated space. Amira stood near the entrance, greeting guests and thanking them for their support. She wore a tailored suit that exuded confidence and professionalism, her hijab a vibrant shade of teal that complemented the mall's branding. As she interacted with visitors, her genuine warmth and kindness left a lasting impression. Karen arrived at the event, her nerves threatening to get the best of her. She had debated whether to attend but ultimately decided that it was important to show her support. She knew she had a long way to go in earning Amira's forgiveness, but she hoped that her presence would be a small step in the right direction. As Karen approached the main stage, she spotted Amira talking with a group of journalists. Summoning her courage, she made her way over, waiting until Amira finished speaking before introducing herself. "Amira," Karen said, her voice tentative. "I just wanted to say how impressed I am with everything you've done here. The mall looks incredible." Amira turned to face her, a small smile playing on her lips. "Thank you, Karen. I'm glad you could make it." "I wanted to be here," Karen said, "to support you and to learn from you. This experience has been a wake-up call for me, and I'm committed to doing better." Amira studied Karen for a moment, her expression thoughtful. "I'm glad to hear that. Change starts with acknowledging our mistakes and making a conscious effort to grow." Karen nodded, her gratitude evident. "Thank you for giving me that chance." As the event continued, Amira took the stage to deliver a speech. The crowd quieted as she began, her voice steady and confident. "Thank you all for being here today," she said. "This mall is more than just a shopping center. It's a place where people from all walks of life can come together, a place where diversity is celebrated and inclusion is a priority. She paused, her gaze sweeping over the audience. This renovation represents a fresh start, not just for the mall but for our community. It's a reminder that we're stronger when we stand together, when we embrace our differences and support one another. The audience erupted into applause, moved by her words. Amira smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. This was the vision she had worked so hard to bring to life, a space that fostered connection, understanding, and unity. Karen watched from the sidelines, her heart heavy with a mix of emotions. She couldn't help but feel a pang of regret for her actions, but she also felt a glimmer of hope. Amira's message of unity and forgiveness resonated deeply, and Karen vowed to carry those lessons forward. As the event drew to a close, Karen approached Amira one last time. "Your speech was beautiful," she said. "It really opened my eyes." "Thank you," Amira replied. "I hope it inspires others to do the same." "It already has," Karen said. "And I promise to keep learning and growing." Amira nodded, her smile genuine. "That's all I can ask." As the day wound down and the mall's grand reopening approached its conclusion, the sense of community and celebration was palpable. Families strolled through the newly renovated corridors, children laughed as they clutched balloons handed out by friendly staff, and shop owners smiled as customers explored their offerings. It was a moment of triumph not just for Amira, but for everyone who believed in the power of unity and perseverance. Karen stayed behind, watching the crowd with a sense of awe and humility. This was the same space where she had let her ignorance and prejudice take center stage, and now it was filled with positivity and connection. She felt a newfound appreciation for what Amira had built, not just a mall but a symbol of hope. Amira, though busy with her final rounds, noticed Karen lingering by the main stage. After finishing her conversation with a local journalist, she approached Karen, curious about what was on her mind. "You stayed until the end," Amira observed, her tone friendly but inquisitive. Karen nodded, fidgeting slightly. "I wanted to see everything through. This event, it's remarkable. You've created something truly special here." "Thank you," Amira replied, her voice warm. "But it wasn't just me. It was a collective effort, a community effort." Karen looked down at her hands, taking a moment to gather her thoughts. "I owe you more than an apology, Amira. I owe you my respect. I can see now how much thought and care you've put into this place. It's inspiring." Amira smiled, sensing the sincerity in Karen's words. "I'm glad you feel that way. Change is never easy, but it's always worth pursuing." Karen hesitated, then said, "I've been thinking a lot about what you said during our meeting. About educating myself and challenging my assumptions. I've started reading about different cultures and experiences, and it's already opened my eyes in ways I never expected." Amira's expression softened. "That's a great start, Karen. The more we learn about one another, the easier it becomes to see the humanity we all share." As the last of the guests began to leave, Amira took a moment to reflect on the day. It had been a whirlwind of emotions and hard work, but seeing the mall bustling with life made it all worthwhile. Her phone buzzed with a notification, and she smiled as she read the message from her mother. "So proud of you, my dear. You've made us all proud." Amira replied with a heartfelt thank you, her chest swelling with gratitude. Her family had always been her anchor, supporting her through every challenge and triumph. She hoped that her journey would inspire others to overcome adversity and embrace their own potential. Meanwhile, Karen returned home feeling lighter than she had in weeks. The weight of her mistake had been lifted, not because it had been forgotten, but because she had taken steps to make amends. She opened her laptop and began drafting a letter to her local community center, offering to volunteer for their cultural exchange program. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The next day, as the buzz from the grand reopening continued to grow, Amira received a call from a national news outlet. They wanted to feature her story as part of a series on inspiring leaders. Amira agreed, recognizing the opportunity to amplify her message of inclusion and resilience. During the interview, the journalist asked, "What do you hope people take away from your story?" Amira thought for a moment before answering. "I hope they see that kindness and understanding have the power to transform not just individuals, but entire communities. We all have a role to play in making the world a better place." Her words resonated far beyond the walls of the mall. The interview was shared widely, sparking conversations about diversity, acceptance, and the impact of leadership. As the days passed, the ripples of the mall's reopening spread further than Amira had imagined. The news story featuring her leadership went viral, sparking discussions in schools, workplaces, and community centers about the importance of understanding and inclusion. People across the country admired her composure and determination, many citing her as a role model for handling adversity with grace. Amira's phone didn't stop buzzing with messages of congratulations and support. Among the countless emails, one stood out. It was from a young woman named Layla, who shared how Amira's story had given her the courage to stand up to discrimination at her workplace. "I've always been scared to speak up," Layla wrote. "But seeing your strength has shown me that change is possible. Thank you for inspiring me." Amira felt a lump in her throat as she read the message. Moments like these reminded her of why she chose to take the high road, even when it was difficult. She replied to Layla, encouraging her to stay strong and offering advice on how to navigate challenging situations. Meanwhile, Karen was on her own journey of growth. She had started volunteering at the local cultural exchange program, where she helped organize events that celebrated diversity. It was eye-opening for her to hear the stories of people from different backgrounds and to see the world through their eyes. One afternoon, Karen shared her own story during a group discussion. She spoke about her encounter with Amira, admitting her mistakes and the lessons she had learned since. "I realized that my prejudice was a reflection of my own ignorance," Karen said. "Amira didn't just forgive me, she challenged me to be better. And I'm working on it every day." The group listened intently, many nodding in understanding. After the session, a young man approached Karen. "Thank you for sharing that," he said. "It's not easy to admit when we're wrong, but it's the first step toward real change." Karen felt a sense of relief and purpose. She knew she still had a long way to go, but she was committed to making amends and using her experience to educate others. Back at the mall, Amira was busy implementing new initiatives to ensure that the space remained inclusive and welcoming. One of her first projects was establishing a mentorship program for young entrepreneurs, providing them with resources and guidance to start their own businesses. She also launched a series of cultural festivals, celebrating the rich diversity of the community. Each month, the mall would host events featuring music, food, and art from different cultures, creating opportunities for people to connect and learn from one another. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Families attended in droves, eager to experience the vibrant celebrations and support local artisans. Amira couldn't help but smile as she watched children dancing to live music and parents chatting over plates of international cuisine. It was exactly what she had envisioned, a space where everyone felt seen, valued, and included. Karen attended one of the festivals with her niece, who was visiting from out of town. She marveled at the energy and warmth of the event, taking in the colorful decorations and the joyful atmosphere. As she walked through the crowd, she spotted Amira near the main stage, speaking with a group of performers. Karen hesitated for a moment before approaching her. "Amira," she said, her voice steady but nervous. "This is incredible. You've created something truly beautiful here." Amira turned, her expression softening when she saw Karen. "Thank you, Karen. I'm glad you could make it." "I brought my niece," Karen said, gesturing to the young girl by her side. "I wanted her to see what's possible when people come together." Amira smiled warmly. "That means a lot. This space is for everyone and I'm glad you're a part of it." Karen felt a surge of gratitude. She had come a long way since their first encounter, and while she knew she couldn't erase the past, she was determined to build a better future. Months turned into a year, and the mall thrived under Amira's leadership. It had become a hub for the community, not just a place to shop but a space where people came together to celebrate their shared humanity. Amira's vision had transformed the once ordinary mall into a beacon of inclusivity and inspiration. Karen's journey also continued. She had become a regular volunteer at the cultural exchange program and had even started a blog where she shared her experiences of unlearning prejudice and embracing diversity. Her honest reflections resonated with readers, sparking meaningful conversations and encouraging others to examine their own biases. One day, Karen received an unexpected invitation. Amira had organized a leadership summit at the mall, bringing together community leaders, educators, and business owners to discuss ways to foster inclusion and empowerment. Karen was invited to speak as part of a panel on personal growth and transformation. At first, Karen felt unworthy of the honor. "I'm still learning," she confessed to Amira when they met to discuss the event. "I'm not an expert on these topics." Amira placed a reassuring hand on Karen's shoulder. "That's exactly why your voice is important. Growth isn't about being perfect, it's about being honest and committed to change. Your story has the power to inspire others." Encouraged by Amira's words, Karen agreed. On the day of the summit, she stood on the stage, nervous but determined, and shared her journey with the audience. She spoke about the encounter that had changed her life, the lessons she had learned, and the steps she was taking to be a better ally. To anyone who's struggling with their own biases, Karen said, her voice steady, "I want you to know that it's never too late to change. It starts with listening, learning, and most importantly, taking action." The audience responded with a warm round of applause, and Karen felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She knew she still had a long way to go, but she was proud of how far she had come. After the summit, Amira and Karen stood together in the mall's atrium, watching as attendees mingled and exchanged ideas. The space was alive with energy and connection, a testament to the power of community. "Thank you for trusting me to share my story," Karen said, turning to Amira. "You've taught me so much, not just about inclusion but about resilience and grace." Amira smiled. "And you've shown me that change is possible even when it feels unlikely. We all have the capacity to grow if we're willing to try." As they parted ways, Karen felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had once been a symbol of division, but now she was committed to being a force for unity. The mall continued to flourish, drawing visitors from near and far. Amira's story became a source of inspiration for countless people, a reminder that adversity could be transformed into opportunity with courage and determination. She received invitations to speak at conferences and events, sharing her insights on leadership and inclusion. But for Amira, the greatest reward was seeing the smiles on the faces of the people who walked through the mall's doors. Each interaction, each connection, was a step toward building a more compassionate and understanding world. And as the sun set on another bustling day at the mall, Amira stood at the entrance, watching families and friends leave with their hearts full and their spirits lifted. She knew that the journey was far from over, but she was ready for whatever came next. For every challenge there was an opportunity to rise. As the Leadership Summit's success reverberated throughout the community, Amira's story gained even more traction. Journalists from national outlets began reaching out to interview her about her journey. She became a sought-after voice, not just for her role as the mall's owner but also for her ability to turn adversity into an opportunity for societal change. Amira, though humbled by the attention, remained grounded. For her, the mall's transformation was not about personal recognition but about creating a legacy of inclusivity. She made it a point to share the spotlight with others, her team, the vendors, and community leaders who had supported her vision. In one particularly poignant interview, Amira was asked how she managed to stay composed in the face of Karen's discrimination and turn the experience into something positive. "It wasn't easy," Amira admitted. "I felt hurt and angry, but I realized that responding with the same negativity wouldn't help. Instead, I focused on what I could control, creating a space where everyone feels welcome. That's how we break cycles of prejudice, by leading with compassion and strength." The interviewer nodded, visibly moved. "And what would you say to those who may not have the courage to stand up for themselves in similar situations?" Amira smiled gently. "Courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you act despite the fear. And you don't have to do it alone. There's strength in community. Together, we can create environments where everyone feels empowered." Meanwhile, Karen found herself facing another defining moment. While volunteering at the cultural exchange program, she met a young woman wearing a hijab who reminded her of Amira. The woman, named Noor, was struggling with self-confidence due to the discrimination she had faced. "I just feel like no matter what I do, people will always judge me for how I look," Noor confessed during one of their sessions. "It's exhausting." Karen's heart ached as she listened. She remembered the weight of her own past ignorance and how it had contributed to someone else's pain. Determined to make a difference, she shared her own journey with Noor. "I've made mistakes," Karen said, her voice steady but filled with regret. "But meeting Amira changed me. She taught me that our differences should be celebrated, not feared. And I want you to know that you have so much to offer this world. Don't let anyone make you feel less than you are." Noor's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Thank you," she said softly. "It means a lot to hear that from someone like you." The exchange left a deep impression on Karen. She began advocating for more programs that supported young women like Noor, working tirelessly to create opportunities for them to thrive. As the months rolled on, Amira continued to innovate. She launched a scholarship program for aspiring entrepreneurs from underrepresented communities, offering them financial support and mentorship to kickstart their businesses. The program attracted attention from investors and philanthropists, many of whom were inspired by Amira's commitment to empowering others. The scholarship recipients were a diverse group, each with their own dreams and ambitions. One of them was Aisha, a single mother with a talent for baking. With the scholarship's help, she opened a small bakery in the mall, specializing in desserts that blended traditional and modern flavors. The bakery quickly became a hit, drawing long lines and glowing reviews. Aisha often credited Amira for believing in her when no one else did. "You didn't just give me an opportunity," Aisha said during the bakery's grand opening. "You gave me hope. And for that, I'll always be grateful." Amira beamed with pride. Moments like these reaffirmed her purpose and reminded her that the work she was doing had a ripple effect far beyond what she could have imagined. The mall's evolution into a symbol of unity and empowerment continued to inspire not just the local community but people far beyond. Amira's leadership had transformed the space into a microcosm of what society could look like when inclusion and compassion were at the forefront. Karen, too, had become an active participant in this journey. She organized workshops at the mall, focusing on fostering understanding and empathy. At first, she was nervous about how people would perceive her. After all, her transformation had started with a public outburst. But as she shared her story, she discovered that vulnerability was her strength. "Every time I tell my story," Karen admitted during one of the workshops, "I feel a mix of shame and hope. Shame for how I acted and hope because I've seen that change is possible. If I can unlearn prejudice, anyone can." Her honesty resonated with the attendees. People began approaching her after sessions, sharing their own struggles with bias and asking for advice on how to do better. Karen realized that her mistakes, though painful, had given her the tools to help others. Meanwhile, Amira's efforts to support small businesses at the mall were bearing fruit. The scholarship program expanded, and several recipients opened shops that reflected their unique cultural identities. These businesses added a vibrant energy to the mall, attracting visitors who were eager to experience something new. One of the most popular spots was a cafe run by Layla, a young woman who had dreamed of opening her own business for years. Her cafe featured dishes inspired by her grandmother's recipes, and the cozy atmosphere made it a favorite gathering place. Layla often shared how Amira had mentored her through the process of launching the cafe. "She didn't just give me advice," Layla said during a community event. "She walked with me every step of the way. Her support made all the difference." Amira smiled as she listened to Layla's words. For her, the success of others was the true measure of her own achievements. One day, as Amira walked through the mall, she noticed Karen sitting at one of the cafe tables, deep in conversation with Noor and Layla. The sight brought a smile to her face. It was a moment that encapsulated everything she had worked for, a space where people from all walks of life could connect, learn, and grow together. Karen noticed Amira and waved her over. "Come join us," she said warmly. As Amira sat down, the group began discussing ideas for a community festival that would celebrate the mall's diversity. The festival, they decided, would feature performances, workshops, and food from around the world. It would be a way to share their stories and create new connections. The festival turned out to be a massive success, drawing thousands of attendees. People marveled at the performances, sampled delicious dishes, and participated in workshops that broadened their horizons. The event was a testament to the power of unity and the beauty of diversity. Amira stood on the stage at the festival's closing ceremony, looking out at the sea of smiling faces. "This mall," she began, her voice filled with emotion, "is more than just a place to shop. It's a place where we celebrate our differences and come together as one community. Thank you for being part of this journey." The crowd erupted into applause, and Amira felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her journey had been filled with challenges, but every step had been worth it. As the night drew to a close, Karen approached Amira. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "for everything. You didn't just change my life, you've changed so many others too." Amira placed a hand on Karen's shoulder. "You changed your own life, Karen. I just showed you what was possible. The rest was all you." Karen smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "Still, I'll always be grateful." As they parted ways, Amira looked around at the bustling mall, now illuminated by soft, glowing lights. It was a place transformed, a beacon of hope and possibility. She knew there was still work to be done, but she was ready for whatever came next. Because in every act of kindness, every moment of connection, and every step toward understanding, she saw a brighter future taking shape. And that, she thought, was worth everything.